Yeah, it's another week of fantasy football. Week 6, we've got COVID scare. We have some big trades happening in the NFL. Let's talk about it soon. This right here is the Fantasy Football video podcast, I would say. We haven't put anywhere else for a while. And my name is Judah Buddha. I'm here with AJ Herschel, the kid, and it's Jared. And we are ready to talk about some stardom situms, a little news. What's going on, guys? No football on Thursday. Felt weird, eh? Getting disjuncted. Is that a word? Jared, what was it like for you not having any fantasy football?
I guess what saved it for me was having the NLCS and the Braves in it. So I didn't really miss it. Normally it would have felt really weird, but because that was going on, I would have been watching that anyway. So yeah, this was there was a sort of a mulligan for football for me this week. So
yeah, it kind of psyched me out for a minute because I also turned on the NLCS thinking, oh, there's no Thursday game, and then my TV network said, oh, at 7:30, Colts versus Texans Thursday night football, and mentally I panicked for a second. I was like,
for next week.
No, for this week. I was like 5 minutes before 7:30. I straight up panicked for a second and went, hold on, did I miss something? So I checked like 3 different websites to make sure I wasn't crazy. And I was like, okay, that is just a problem with my schedule. All right, we're good.
Yeah, that's weird. I mean, because they're playing the Bengals. So I don't know what. Yeah.
Strange.
Also, do we have big trades going on, or was that just like blatant false advertising at the top of the show?
I didn't mean trades. I meant pickups. Well, the Bell news.
Yeah, big transactions. Yeah,
that's what I meant. Transactions. Yeah, because they didn't trade anything. They just took him off the waiver wire.
Right.
And gave him about so the big news is Bell is now going to the Kansas City Chiefs. Gonna give him about $1 million, I think, right? $1 million for this year.
You get 690,000 and then $1 million in incentive. Could go up to $1 million in incentives, I believe.
I rewatched the tape on him, and though he was slow, it looked a little bit more like the offensive line was just terrible, and maybe shaking up some rust. I think he could be great in Kansas City, especially like as a pass catcher. What were you gonna say, Jared?
I was just gonna say, I mean, he's not old. I mean, he's only, I think, 28.
28, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, I think we've seen what he can do in a great offensive system before. He's probably not going to be quite, what he was before. So I would expect probably something between what we saw with the Steelers and what we saw with the Jets. So,
AJ, what do you think?
My worry is that he's going to become like Leonard Fournette, who's been an absolute mess this year in Tampa. But the hope is that he's going to be, first off, in a much better system in Kansas City. Second off, he's going to be in a much better offensive line. Kansas City's offensive line is one of the best rushing offensive lines in the league. Yeah. So I think it's going to be a lot better for him. Just worried about how he's going to split time with CEH.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't, if we're talking about fantasy purposes, I mean, if you could get him for cheap, if you've already got him, then, I mean, if you've already got Bell, then,
that's a good news.
No worries. This can't really hurt you. If you were looking to go out and get him, I would be careful about that, because depending on what you had to give up for him, because, you don't know. I don't know how much the Chiefs, near the goal line are going to want to take the ball out of Patrick Mahomes' hands, period, when you've got him and all those weapons. So, I think it can be useful, but it's really just hard to know exactly what his value will be, or CEH's really.
Yeah, that's the thing I worry about. Because, I mean, if you drafted Le'Veon, you can't get much worse than what's already happened.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is CEH hasn't gotten more than 65% of the snaps anyways, and it seems to be going down. So I don't think it's not like CEH has been blowing up, So I don't really think CEH, he might, lose a little. I think this is great there are places I'm going out and trying to get
Bell.
The problem is I have so many. I have a lot of running backs, and at this point, I'm not looking for running backs. I was talking to AJ about it. I'm looking more for wide receivers at this point. Wide receivers are hard to come by.
Yeah, it's
good ones.
Right. Well, yeah. Yeah, it's funny with running backs, apart from a handful, unless you've got Kamara, Zeke, Derrick Henry, Aaron Jones, maybe a couple others. A lot of running backs are kind of around the same, level, because you don't know exactly what their volume is going to be week to week, what the what the offense is going to look like. There aren't, we talked about going into the season, there aren't that many like true feature bell cow backs. And this situation just, takes one more off the board, sort of. So yeah, it's a lot of them. So like you said, there's just sort of like a handful of guys that are at the top for running back, and I guess, receiver too.
Let's hit the chat real quick. Allied Rivals in the house. Check out the podcast. We know a couple of guys on that podcast. 77 subs. Congrats. Wow, I guess we're rising. I didn't know. Same here. He says he's eager to, I guess he's ready. Oh, yeah, because this is all before we started. Let's get going. Well, we did. Good morning, Rotohackers Math Quest. What's up, brother? Good morning or afternoon, wherever you are in the world today. Fish says, "You're." What's up, my dudes from old Drew Bano? Good to see you, brother. So what's going to happen to Le'Veon? Well, we talked a little bit about that. I got CH and Bell. Man, not stoked about. I don't know. I think it's not bad for either. And following that, what's going to happen? Yeah, we talked a little bit about that. So sad Amari won't have Dak anymore. I think this does probably hurt Amari the worst.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you guys say?
Yeah.
I completely agree with that.
He was just locked in on him a lot of time. I mean, he was still spreading the ball around. CeeDee Lamb got a lot of targets. He was getting the tight end Schultz some, but Amari had just been a lock for double-digit targets every week.
Yeah. So. And it's hard to tell who Dalton's going to prefer, if anyone. Right. Although he did prefer, there's talk that he preferred Gallup in the offseason, the preseason when they were practicing, and it seemed to sort of click, although it was a little random. It was like how many,
like one drive, really one drive.
Yeah,
not one drive for Dalton, but really one drive where Gallup put up his production.
Yeah,
right.
But if I am a quarterback and I see a wide receiver do that, like, did you guys see those catches?
Yeah, that was nice.
I think I'm gonna try going back to him. Didn't hurt.
I'll wait a week to see what he does this week, and then next week. But if you do have him, if you're someone like me who drafted a lot of him because he was $4 in auction or something like that, $3 or $4, then
glimmer of hope.
Glimmer hope. Yeah.
Was there any other news before we hit the chat again?
Well, we didn't, something that we didn't get to Tuesday night. And I don't know that maybe Thomas H is not here because he's really the one that we need to weigh in on. That is the Falcons finally fired not only Dan Quinn, but the one that was much more overdue was the GM Thomas Dimitroff. Just sent them both to the guillotine. On what was it, Monday night? Maybe I guess it would have been Monday night. Monday night. So yeah, and Falcons are 0-5 now, 0-4, 0-5.
0-5, I don't think they have won yet.
Yeah, so
they haven't won one game.
No.
Wow.
No. So they're looking at. Yeah, that might be it. Trevor's going to be there. The kid Trey Lance, the kid from North Dakota State, maybe Justin Fields. So it's going to be interesting to see what the rest of this Falcons season looks like. And you have people like talking about, are they going to trade? Are they going to trade their guys during the season? I don't think they trade any of their guys during the season. They're going to get a GM in there in place and let him make those decisions. That's going to be a search process, and that's going to take a while. And I don't think you see Julio Jones or Matt Ryan or anybody else go anywhere during the season. I think it'll be afterwards.
Yeah, I'm more interested to see what happens to them coming up in the next few weeks because they're coming up against Minnesota, and I'm wondering if this is going to be like the Texans, who absolutely went crazy the week Bill O'Brien left. So I don't know what's going to happen fantasy-wise for ATL because I've got Ridley, I've got Julio. Now I don't even know what the play calling is going to be like. So I'm a little bit iffy on what's going to happen.
Well, the good news is that Julio's a good. He doesn't have a injury tag anymore, which is sort of surprising.
Well, yeah, right. Like
Julio.
I don't know how much it ever really matters. He's always, just one play. He's like, he's a rich man's version of Will Fuller. He's becoming a rich man's version of Will Fuller, where, although Will Fuller's doing well this year. But I think just the older Julio gets, he's played through a lot of stuff in the past, but, as I can speak from experience, not being a professional athlete, but just being a human being, as you get older, your healing recovery time doesn't get any better. So
that's right. All right. Well, Stephen Drake, Stephen's been coming off and on. I really appreciate you showing up. Stephen, thank you for coming and watching and asking questions. Should I start Juju or Justin Jefferson? And I need two: Gurley, James Robinson, or Gaskins. Okay. Full PPR. I actually think Juju may go off this week. What's that?
Really? You think so?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Deontay's out, so it's going to be Juju, Claypool, and I guess James Washington. So Deontay soaks up a lot of those targets. Although we saw last week, even with him out, Claypool soaked him up. But I think this could be maybe a Juju week.
There's been a little squeaky wheel, a little squeaky wheel action, and sometimes that works, sometimes that doesn't. But what do you guys think about? Well, AJ, what do you think? Juju, Jefferson, and then what about the two from the Gurley, James Robinson, or Gaskins?
Yeah, I think Juju and Jefferson. Juju has really kind of hurt me this year just for how he's done mediocre, just playing and in good matchups too. And it worries me that he's not necessarily getting the targets he normally gets either, 5 in back-to-back games. And I'm trying to figure out, did Chase Claypool explode because Ben likes him, or did he explode because the Eagles defense is bad? So this is kind of like you guys were saying, a prove it week for Juju that I always talk about over the last 3 weeks. This is my last chance where it's like, okay, I need you to score points this week, or if not, that's going to be basically riding the bench unless it's an emergency. I like Jefferson because he's going up against Atlanta, And we all know that's a golden matchup, and I'm starting him in some leagues, but who knows? The Vikings are a run-first team. This could be a Madison game because the Falcons' front seven isn't that good either. So I would say maybe start Juju because this is a prove-it week for him. Running backs, that's easy. Gurley and James Robinson. James Robinson doesn't have a tough matchup. Gaskin, look, he isn't bad, but he has probably the most locked-in ceiling of any player this year of 16 rushes, 67 yards, maybe a touchdown or not. Like, he is eerily consistent with that stat line. He hasn't really gone that far under it, hasn't broken the ceiling yet. I go Robinson to bounce back week in a good matchup, and I go Todd Gurley, who's been really getting more usage over the past few weeks too.
Yeah, I pretty much agree. I think it's actually really close on both of those questions because you can easily make the argument for Justin Jefferson in the golden matchup against the Falcons. You know, I mean, if there's a top three, best teams to start your quarterbacks and wide receivers against, the Falcons are right there. Trouble is, Thielen is just typically by a wide margin the number one wide receiver in that option, and then they are wide receiver in that offense. He's had double-digit targets in back-to-back weeks. He's only had under 8 targets once, whereas Jefferson, he had that blow-up week in week 3 against Tennessee. He still managed 100 yards in week 4, even though he only had 5 targets. Last week, he was back down to 3 catches, 23 yards against a pretty beatable Seattle secondary. So, I mean, I think being a rookie and being in the offense that they're in, that really focuses on the running back, which will be Madison this week, and then focuses heavily on Thielen, it's tough to trust Jefferson. Juju, same way, tough to trust him. But after a couple of, after some down weeks, I think this game could set up for him to have a pretty good week. And then kind of like what AJ said, I think it would just be tough for me to sit Gurley or Robinson. Gurley against Minnesota, that Minnesota is just kind of a middle of the pack run defense. And it does worry me that maybe the Vikings could control the game script and, sort of get up to a lead, and then the Falcons can't really use Gurley more. I think Robinson is the safest one out of those 3. And then I would give the edge to Gurley, right now. I think, we don't know for sure what the situation is going to be with Jordan Howard. He was a healthy scratch last week. You don't know for sure if the Dolphins will do that again. Maybe he'll come back and could vulture some goal line from Gaskin. So I would go Gurley, Robinson.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and it's interesting. They're calling for storms in Miami. I think they're playing in Miami, right? Or in Florida. In general, they're going to be in Florida either way.
They are in Florida, yeah.
So I think who are they playing? They're playing
Jets.
Yeah, they're playing in Florida. Yeah, they're playing the Jets. Yeah, and the Jets does have a pretty stout, not stout, but if they have anything, they have a little bit of a run defense. So,
do they though? I don't know. Melvin Gordon torched them 2 weeks ago, and they just let Chase Edmonds and Kenyon Drake kind of rip them up.
I wouldn't say he torched them. He got a touchdown or 2. He got 2 touchdowns, right?
That sounds right. Yeah. 107 yards and 2 touchdowns.
No, that is pretty much torching him. Yeah. So I don't know. It's hard for me. I do think that Gaskins is a good play. I mean, just as good as James Robinson. Either one, though, could be. You guys are right. It's pretty close. I just go with what you guys said. Allied Rival says, I trust Dalton.
Judah trusted him to the tune of a $13 pickup in our Roto waiver wire league. So Judah trusts him.
Mm-hmm.
I trust him too. I want to see what he does. But
he looked good last week. He looked really good.
Yeah, if you go back and watch the tape, he hasn't lost anything. And as I said.
But it's always like, how much did he have to start with? Like, he's solid. he's got a good floor. Well, I don't know if he has a good floor. He has a good overall floor. Week to week, he's kind of hard to trust. So we'll see. I am very curious to see how he looks, because this is going to be the best collection of talent that he's ever had. And I mean, he had some, he had some pretty good stuff there in Cincinnati with AJ Green and, some of those receiving groups they had there. So I'm curious to see. Yeah.
Yeah. I like him. I think I'm going to be using him. I got him a lot of places. Well, because I'm paying. Apparently nobody else thinks so. He's still on the waiver wire.
Yeah, he's still on. Well, I thought he would be picked up more, but there's just a lot of quarterbacks available this year.
Yeah, that's true. I had the idea. We'll talk about it later. So, rip those 15 target games. Those maybe week 15.
No, he's talking. He says RIP the 15 targets that Amari's getting each week.
Oh yeah,
like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Vano says, pick 2: DJ Moore, Darius Slayton, Hollywood Brown. I like DJ Moore and Hollywood Brown. Not a big fan of anything in New York, but what do you guys think?
You want to go, AJ? Oh, maybe not.
You go first.
Okay. I think I would actually probably go Slayton and Brown. Brown is kind of difficult to trust week to week for what he's going to get. I mean, although actually that's not really true. That's not really true this year. He did have a weeks 2 and 3 after his 101-yard week 1. It looked like he was going to be back to what he was last year in weeks 2 and 3. First 3 weeks, he had 6 targets each week, and his yardage went from 101 to 42 to 13. So it looked like it was just going to be that same up and down. Last 2 weeks, he's actually had 8 and 10 targets, 86 yards 1 week, 77 another, and a touchdown last week. So Philadelphia has given up the 7th most points to wide receivers, fantasy points to wide receivers. So the fact that his targets are sort of, staying good and steady now makes me feel better about him. I actually picked him up off the waiver wire in a $50 league this week. I had a league where I picked up AJ Brown off the waiver wire and picked up Hollywood Brown. So I don't know why. And I had like the 6th or 7th waiver priority. So I don't know why people are suddenly down on the Brown receivers. But
down on the Browns.
But yeah, I mean, right now it's looking like, he's a safer option to trust. So I would go him. And then, you look at what Slayton has sort of been a similar story where, he had that huge blow up week in week 1, and then he played some pretty good defenses. Chicago's pass defense has been pretty good. San Francisco, even though they lost their pass rush, their secondary's been pretty solid still. And then, and then he was matched up with Jalen Ramsey. And so he was still getting the targets, but just not, the catches. Last week, he got a great matchup with Dallas again and blew up for, had 11 targets, blew up for 129 yards. Washington's secondary is, oddly enough, like they've given up the 3rd fewest fantasy points to wide receivers, but it's still not really.
Who is that?
Washington. I don't know how that's happened exactly. And like Hollywood, going back to one of the other guys in this talk, in week 4, Hollywood, had 86 yards against him. So they're just not that scary. DJ Moore, he's playing a good pass defense this week. Chicago's given up the 2nd fewest points to receivers, and Robbie Anderson's clearly the number 1 in that group of receivers. DJ's getting around, he's had 4, 6, and 5 targets over the last 3 weeks. So he's averaging 5 targets a week. And, he broke out a big play for a touchdown last week, but to me, he's the number 3 out of those 3 guys.
What happened to AJ? AJ, what do you think?
I'm right here. Sorry, my internet lagged out for a second. I'm fed up with DJ Moore. I'm going to be honest. He's getting 4, 5, 6 targets a game. He's only had more than 4 catches a game once, and that was in week 2. I'm getting tired of DJ Moore, and he's going up against Chicago, who currently statistically has the best secondary in the league and the top two and the highest two cornerbacks if you combine their passer rating allowed, best in the league. So I don't like DJ Moore this week. He's going up against a tough pass defense. So I'd go Slayton and Hollywood because they're getting targets and they're much more consistent, at least in their production. I mean, except for Slayton, he's been mediocre at best. But I mean, who else are the Giants going to throw to? Evan Ingram, and that's it. And even though I don't like the Giants,
Tate's still there.
Look, I don't like the Giants offense this year. Daniel Jones hasn't thrown a touchdown in 4 weeks. They're playing a front seven in Washington. That's great, but I'd rather have him than DJ Moore this week, just because at least he has the off chance of. I feel like he has a better chance of catching a touchdown pass against Washington than DJ Moore does against Chicago. So I'll go Slayton and Hollywood here. Also, all of this, every time we call him Hollywood, I always just look him up on Yahoo and I have to remind myself.
Yeah, same. Right. They really should just change that and make that easier.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. Going down. AJ, please set your lineup. What? You haven't set your lineup?
I'm playing Ben this week. I'm good.
Oh, I think he thinks you're Windy City.
Oh.
And let's see. What the heck? Lost my place here. Must have some people in the chat. Wow, we got a lot of chat. Okay. You guys should do a little overview of the Listener League, how everyone's looking so far. Maybe we will.
We should make a mini episode on that or something.
Yeah. I don't mind that. Although it's just hard, like other people that aren't in it. It's like, what is this? He said like a power rankings type.
That'd be fun.
Yeah. Allied Arrivals says he's hyping his giraffe. He changed the name to Giraffe Beetles?
No, it's still the Scrabby Giraffes.
But I think Scrabby is a beetle, right?
It is, yeah.
Yeah, is it supposed to be? Is it Scarab or is it
Scarab?
I don't know. I don't know my Beatles that well.
All right, Sam Joshi, thanks for coming by and asking some questions. Gibson, Drake, Mostert, James Robinson. I need 3 PPR.
It's a good problem to have.
Ooh, I don't know. This is not a great problem to have. These are mediocre at best. I love me some Gibson. I would take Gibson and jeez. Who's Drake playing?
Cowboys.
Cowboys. Yeah, I'll probably take Gibson and Drake. Hope that Drake isn't dead.
Well, he needs 3.
Oh.
He needs 3.
I would say Gibson, Drake, and Mostert. What do you guys think?
I'm fed up with Drake.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
I'm fed up with Drake. Gibson, Mostert has been making a lot of production out of not many carries, and James Robinson has a great matchup against Detroit's terrible defense this week. I'm fed up with Drake. That's my only explanation.
Yeah, I just know that the week that I bench Kenyon Drake's going to be the week that he blows up for 40. But this week I would probably be inclined to go away from him. Robinson's got a great matchup, and he's the feature guy. He's kind of a do-it-all for Jacksonville. Mostert's been great he's missed a couple weeks, but in the 3 games that he's played, he's had 23, 17, 13. So I think Mostert's maybe about the safest option in there because San Francisco is going to run the ball. And then I would say, I think Judah froze up on us there.
Yeah, he did.
I'd say either that or he's, his eyebrow there is really bothering him. And then, Gibson, the Giants, I think they have the Giants. So Giants are pretty friendly team to run on. So I would go them. PPR makes a little bit of a difference for me too, because Drake doesn't catch that many passes. They kind of go to Chase Edmonds on that. So that would be my 3 is Mostert, Robinson, Gibson in that order.
Yeah. Well, Jude is out for a minute, so I'm going to take over hosting of the show. Don't tell him. Math Quest. Should I start Minshew, Ryan, or Fitzpatrick this week? Julio's changed to healthy, quote unquote, this morning, and Shark's status is still unclear. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I might say Ryan Fitzpatrick. What do you think, Jared?
Yeah, this is a tough one too. Matt Ryan, we're coming off of 3 straight terrible weeks, where his point total has gone down 12.42 to 12.4 to 7.9. 2 of those 3 were good pass defenses. Green Bay, not so much. He's really hard to trust right now. I mean, you look at the first 2 weeks of the season, he had Seattle and Dallas. So his real numbers are probably going to be somewhere in between, those 2. I think he could have, he gets Minnesota and Detroit next. So he could have, some solid games against those teams. Fitzpatrick, you're always risking that you're going to, as Judah says, that he's going to turn back into a pumpkin. And the Jets, the Jets against the pass this week haven't been terrible. In terms of the matchup, really Minshew has probably the best matchup with Detroit. But again, he's also awfully difficult to trust. He had, a dud 10 points against Miami earlier this season. Gosh, that's hard. I think Fitzpatrick probably has the safest floor because he will just be the gritty blue collar, run the ball for the first down if he needs to type guy. So I think he's probably got the safest floor.
Yeah, I would go Fitzpatrick, and I can't believe I'm saying that, but Ryan is not looking great. I don't know how he's gonna look week 1 without Quinn. And Minshew is good in games he's not supposed to be good in, and bad in games he's supposed to dominate in. So I go Ryan Fitzpatrick. What do you think, Judah?
Sorry, I had the construction guys unplugged the internet. Thanks, guys. Yeah, I think Fitzpatrick. The Fitz magic. It doesn't look like Tua's going to come back for a while. From what I'm hearing, he is, I don't know what you guys already said, but from what I'm hearing, it looks like he's still dealing with some physical problems. And they're just not looking to bring him back very fast because guess what? Fitzpatrick's doing great.
Yeah. Fitzpatrick is not the problem in Miami. So
yeah. Other than that, I mean, you could roll the dice with Minshew or Ryan. Probably a better dice roll to roll with Ryan.
Probably because he's a little bit due.
Yeah. That's interesting. I wonder who's on the waiver wire though, Math Quest. Like maybe you could go out and get Dalton or what is this in our listener league? Herbert? Is Herbert on the waiver wire?
Not in our league. I haven't.
Oh well, he's not playing this week. So
yeah.
So yeah, I'd probably just go Fitzpatrick.
You want to take back over hosting duties now that you're back?
Sure. All right. Where are we though? You gotta do the
all right.
Count.
We're right here.
I don't know where we are.
We're right here. Fish asks, start 2, Jamison Crowder, Amari Cooper, AJ Brown, Tyler Boyd, Jonathan Taylor, and David Johnson. Oof.
That's a good problem to have.
Very much so.
I'm inclined to go Jonathan Taylor against that Cincinnati run defense. And then maybe maybe actually Jamison Crowder.
Yeah, I like Crowder.
I mean, he's just a target factory for Jets. Double-digit targets all 3 weeks, 100 yards all 3 weeks, at least 7 catches all 3 weeks that he's played. He missed weeks 2 and 3, and then a touchdown. Two of those 3 weeks, and he gets the Dolphins. Amari, Arizona's been pretty tough against the pass, and we don't really know what it's going to look like with him and Dalton, how much that's going to go down. So honestly, all of those are good options, but I think Jonathan Taylor, you got to go against Cincinnati, and then beyond that, it's tough. But I would give the edge to Crowder.
Yeah, Crowder's probably. I was trying to go by process of elimination. So not Amari, not Boyd, probably not David Johnson, just because he's pretty much going to get you 11 points a game.
Yeah,
and Crowder, I mean, especially if this is PPR, then it's absolutely Crowder, because then his 10 points turns into 20 automatically. So Crowder's the easiest one here. After that, I might be inclined to go AJ Brown this week. Taylor's been fine, and I don't know. That's about it. I haven't really seen him explode all that much. Granted, this is probably a big breakout week for him. But for me, it would either be Taylor or AJ Brown, who came back 1 weekend and got 10 targets straight up against Buffalo. So I would go either AJ Brown or Jonathan Taylor for your second one, and Judah disappeared again, so he'll be back in a minute. But Crowder's definitely the easiest one for me, and then I might go with you on Taylor, but I do like AJ Brown this week as well. Where are we? Allied Rivals. Tune into Allied Rivals streaming today sometime around the 2:00 hour. Yes, you should absolutely do that. Central time, I believe. Battle Royale 2K. Can you guys do a review of my team, Slanting Chubb, in the Listener League? Thanks, guys. Love the work. Love having you here, man. I think maybe we'll see you when Judah comes back. We might do maybe a short episode sometime on just the Listener League. Just a Listener League dedicated episode to review teams there. L. Kraus, pick 2 for full PPR this week. Myles Gaskin, Raheem Mostert, or Robert Woods.
Full PPR. I'm going to still say Mostert, because Mostert's getting catches now, too. I think Gaskins Woods probably depends on whether or not Jordan Howard is a scratch again. If I tend to kind of favor running backs in some ways, because you can just count on the volume a little bit more. Although, Robert Woods is again almost similar to a Jamison Crowder type, where you can usually count on him getting a ton of targets. The Rams are a little bit weird with that sometimes. And then all of a sudden, Woods last week was just at 5 targets. So I think if Howard is a scratch again, I would wait to see if he's a scratch again. I would probably go Gaskin. But if Howard's going to be in there, possibly vulturing touchdowns, then I would go Woods.
Yeah, I would probably agree with that. I love Mostert. Woods, the thing that bugs me is that he hasn't been getting the targets he normally gets, because he'll normally get upwards of 7 targets. He's had upwards of 7 targets once. It's always been 7 and under since then. So I'm inclined to go Mostert for sure. And then, if Howard's out again, Gaskin, absolutely. Blue Crew Chep, PPR Gordon owner. I feel your pain. Who's a good free agent replacement? Lindsey, Pirine, McKissick, or Gore, who's really impressed with Lamichel's Florida Gators highlights? Do you think he can produce in the NFL? What do you think, Jared?
Even though I hate the matchup with New England, I would probably just be inclined to go with Lindsey. Pirine and Gore. Gore's getting most of the carries in that offense. I'm not really sure why. it's not like the Jets are going anywhere. You would think that they would want to have a look at what they have in Pirine, and I would assume that later in the season, at least, they will. That may be after Gase gets fired,
right?
Because
exactly.
He may just stubbornly stick with Gore. McKissick has gotten some more work over the last couple of weeks, but you have to assume with the Broncos that Philip Lindsay is going to get probably 2/3 of those touches. Royce Freeman is probably going to mix in some too. But I think Lindsay gets at least maybe 60% or so of them. And so even though I don't like the matchup, I would go with him. You could make a case for, well, no, not in PPR. It's hard to make a case for Gore. So I would go Lindsay.
Yeah, McKissick is basically not a running back at this point. He's a wide receiver. He's catching 6 passes a game, which in PPR might be nice, but he's definitely not going to have that much of a ceiling. And look, Pirine and Gore, I think Pirine could produce, not in that Jets offense. They're a mess. They run the ball up the middle more than any other team in the league, over 60% of the time. They just run it straight between the tackles, and it doesn't work. And I know they're playing Miami, and they are not that good of an NFL run defense, but this is the Jets we're talking about. And the only person I've liked on the Jets all year has been Crowder, because he's the only person to throw to on the entire team. So I don't like Pirine or Gore this week. They're with the Jets. The coaching's a mess. Offensive line is a mess. Like you said, I hate the matchup, but at least Lindsay has, especially I'm looking at these guys, and out of the best chance of any of them to score a touchdown, I think it absolutely goes to Lindsay. Plus, Lindsay's going to run. He'll probably catch passes out of the backfield at the same time. Not Lamichael, not McKissick, not Gore for me. Liam Wilson, thanks for tuning in. Drew Brees versus Ryan Tannehill for the rest of the season. I know you were a Brees drafter in a lot of leagues this year, Jared. What do you think?
Yeah, I took Brees at $1 or $2 in a lot of drafts. Okay. And, well, you would think not bad, but mostly that's just a wasted pick. But, the good thing is it hasn't really hurt me because there's umpteen quarterbacks that you can pick up, including Ryan Tannehill. So,
right.
I think that's Tannehill for me. Brees has had a few games around the 15-point mark. Some of it you can attribute to Michael Thomas not being there. And so, you don't know exactly what he's going to look like when Thomas comes back. He's had a couple of, Green Bay and against the Chargers, he had 23 points. He had 22 points. Both of those were home games. I think Brees, even with everything considered, I think with his home games, he's probably still pretty trustworthy. This one's a tough matchup coming up with Carolina, against Carolina's pass defense. But the reason I drafted Brees was thinking, he's at home. Basically, you can just split him with another quarterback. Start Drew Brees in your home games. Start the other guy in the away games. And that's going to be a pretty good formula for success. I think what kind of threw that off was that home game against Tampa in the season opener. He had 14 points, and then he followed it up with 15 at Vegas. But if you take that one out, in his 2 home games, he's had 22 and 23.5 points. So if you've got space to if you don't have a quarterback, period, if you're looking for a quarterback and you've got space to roster both, then it might not be a bad idea to put both of them on there. Start Brees in the good home game matchups, which again, I wouldn't consider this one coming up a good one, and then start Tannehill on some of the others. Tannehill is going to have some down games too. He had in what should have been a pretty good game at Minnesota. He had 321 yards, but he didn't have any touchdowns, so he had 13 points. Then he threw down 30 last week against Buffalo. So to me, both of those guys are ideally not really every week starters. you play them more based on the matchups. What do you think?
I think for me, Breeze, like you said, has tough matchups coming up. Carolina, then he gets Chicago, then he gets Tampa in Tampa. So those are 3 matchups I don't want to play him in. Tannehill, though, has just as bad, if not a worse, stretch of games coming up where he's going to have to face Chicago, Indy, Baltimore, then Indy again. Mm-hmm. And the problem with both of these quarterbacks is that you could always have a game where they don't need to do anything because their running backs take care of it for them. Like you said, the Tannehill game against Minnesota, that's when Henry took off, rushed for over 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. So I like Tannehill near the end of the year because that's when he gets Jacksonville and Detroit for the first round of the playoffs. But I'm worried about the Titans in general because they're going to have to play 13 weeks in a row, which is a little bit concerning. So I think you're right. I think you play the matchup. Breeze is definitely probably going to be more consistent in the long run, especially when he gets Thomas back. But Tannehill has a couple of golden matchups later in the year. Judah, you're back. What do you think of the question?
I don't know. I like Tannehill. I'm ready to drop Breeze. I have him a couple spots. I don't. He was hobbled pretty bad last week, and they just pull him out all the time. I mean, Jared's talked about it since the beginning. They pull him out and put these little trickery plays in. I wouldn't be surprised to see a lot more Jameson coming in soon. I don't know. Who knows what's going to happen there? I mean, it's kind of nice that Tannehill doesn't have a bye coming up. It's like you don't have to worry about replacing him.
Yeah, I'm more worried about the team's health, though, because they never get a rest week now at this point.
Dude, this year I'm worried about every team's health.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
It is wild to go into every week like, is this game going to be played?
Yeah.
I mean, this.
Who's on bye this week? We don't know.
Right.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, because we had the Falcons shut down their facility. And then they got the okay, and then the Colts, and then the Patriots. And so then, and you're not just talking one team, then you're talking, for each one of those, another team that's their opponent. So you're talking, 6 teams, 8 teams. And if that Colts game, I mean, I've got leagues where I've got, Mixon and Jonathan Taylor, just like I had leagues where I had Derrick Henry and Derrick Henry and James Conner. And so, I could lose both my starting running backs. So that's the really tough part is that, you're not just talking about one team there. It's you've got depending on the matchup, you can really be hurt as a fantasy owner.
Mm-hmm. Sarah Riley, thanks for tuning in, says half-point PPR flex, Jamison Crowder, Robert Woods, Gibson, or Justin Jefferson.
I really like Crowder. I feel like he's on a hot streak, and he is the preferred. Now, I'm not sure. I guess it doesn't really matter who's going to be throwing the ball. But he is a talented guy. He's always been talented on a team that is thirsty for some talent. So, but then again, Robert Woods is going to be your nice. Who are they playing this week? They're playing
San Francisco.
San Francisco.
So I mean, give or take.
I'm not really afraid. I'm not really afraid of San Francisco either. So I think it could be a high floor. I'd probably go with Crowder or Woods. I'm going to go with Woods. He's on a better team. What do you think, J-Rod?
Just one out of those 4. It would be hard for me to go away from Jamison Crowder because of the volume he's getting. Woods is typically a solid option. Jefferson's got a great matchup. Gibson's got a great matchup. But just the volume Crowder's getting, it's tough. It's tough because he's not reliant on big plays. He's not reliant on touchdowns. I would go Crowder.
Yeah, same. Gibson, Washington. I mean, I like what he's putting up, but I'm still not a huge fan of Washington as an entire unit, and the team's production has suffered. Jefferson really is the main thing why you play him is because of the matchup. That's the easiest one. Robert Woods, like Jared and I were saying earlier, he's not getting the targets that he normally does. And Crowder's getting 10 targets a game. And like you said, Judah, the Jets are a mess. But their run game is even messier, and they have no one else to throw to. So
I don't like that phrase. They have no. Every time you say that, they find somebody else to throw to.
Every time I say that, Jamison Crowder has gotten 10 plus targets every week he's played.
I'm just saying in general.
Okay.
When people say they have no one else to throw to, guess what? The defense kind of knows that too.
True. But I mean, it's James. The Jets have no semblance of offense. I'd go Crowder. This just the volume he's getting. Oh my goodness.
I mean, just that statement alone scares me away from Crowder. They have no one else to throw to. He's the only semblance of anything good in the team. They are a terrible, terrible team.
Garbage time. Garbage time.
Honestly, the Jets could get shut down to 0 with. I wouldn't even blink. I expect it. I expect them to have 0 points.
Yeah. Stephen Drakes, how do you guys feel about Washington and Miami's defense? And this kind of ties in with Drew's question as well. Washington, Giants, or Carolina? So, I mean, we can kind of combine those, honestly. What do you think about Washington and Miami's defense first, though? Let's go with that.
I'm playing them. I'm playing Miami in some leagues. And I haven't seen what you're talking about with the weather, but if it's raining and sloppy, then that just makes me feel even better about it. But you look at Miami's defense, they have a defensive head coach. They've put up 12 points in 2 of their 5 matchups. Now their other 3 matchups weren't good. 4 points, 2 points, 3 points, but they were playing in New England in week 1. They were playing Buffalo's high-powered offense in week 2, and then they were playing Seattle's high-powered offense in week 4. So at home against a crappy Jets offense, I think it's going to be much more like the Jacksonville or the San Francisco game. So I typically have some good defenses. So I've got New England in a lot of leagues. I've got Baltimore. I've got the Colts. But anywhere that I typically don't have a team like that's just like an upper echelon defense, Miami's my favorite streaming play of the week.
Yeah, they're not a bad defense, actually. Now for fantasy, I don't think they're great, but in real life, they can be tough defense to play. Yeah, I think playing the Jets, you can't go wrong. Who even knows? I mean, is Sam Darnold going to play? Safe space Sam going to play? I don't know. We'll see. Might see ghosts.
Let's see. He is doubtful, so it's probably going to be Flacco again.
I don't know. Flacco might even be a worse. I don't know who's better, right. Flacco or.
If you're talking about from a fantasy defense perspective, I think getting Joe Flacco and an offense where they don't have much beyond Jamison Crowder, that's a pretty attractive option.
Yeah, if Miami's out there, snap them up. I agree with that. But my waiver wires are looking more like Drew's question: Washington, New York, or Carolina. Carolina gets the Bears this week. And Washington, the Giants, get each other. So I feel like this could either go one of 2 ways. Either neither of them score or one of them does. What do you guys think?
I looked at – remember last time I said Washington and Giants, either one – or no, I said Giants and Jared said either one probably. And I think you're right. It's probably going to be a low-scoring game. There's probably going to be plenty of picks to go around. Probably even sacks. That's the thing about the Giants is I saw them sack a lot more than I expected. And I think they might have a potential for better upside. I considered Carolina. I looked at Carolina in DFS because they're the bare minimum. And I thought, I mean, are the Bears going to blow up for 30 points? Doubtful. But then again, Carolina lost their only good lineman last week, who came back for like a half a game. So I don't know. I think I'd rather go with Giants. What do you think, J-Rod?
Those all scare me.
Yeah.
Washington has given up since week one. After week one, they've given up 30 plus points every week. The Giants, you could maybe roll the dice with them. The biggest problem there probably is that Daniel Jones will turn the ball over so much and put their defense in bad spots. I don't know if maybe, you might have like a Houston, or I'm sorry, not a Houston, a Tennessee available. They're only 37% rostered. They've had each of the past 2 weeks, they've had 7 points and 8 points. Their lowest, they had 3 at Denver in week one. But I would be probably more inclined to go with them if they're available, because Houston has given up the 8th most points to fantasy defenses. Yeah, Houston had a breakout game last week, but it was against Jacksonville. And we've talked about some of the issues that Houston has. So I guess out of the options that you gave me there, I guess maybe Carolina, and hope that, the Bears just don't get much going. But I would, if Tennessee's available against Houston, I would pick them up and try them.
Yeah, I think he just said they're taken. They're not there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
And the Bills are his main defense. He's just trying to get them.
Yeah, you don't want to roll them out against the Chiefs.
No, especially after a loss. They're going to be mad.
Who?
The Chiefs. They, after coming off of getting embarrassed by the Ravens last week.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, the Bills haven't been good all year. Believe me, I've had a lot of shares of them,
which is surprising.
But I mean, even in real life, they haven't been they've been kind of a nice defense to play against.
Yeah. Right.
Weird.
Ray Gibson asks, full PPR, Godwin or Galladay? Is this your flex? What are your other wide receivers? Dude.
And both. Although Godwin coming off an injury.
Well, granted, he has had over 2 weeks to heal because they played Chicago on short week.
That's right. If you can play them both, Who are your other ones? Is my question.
I know. Like, do you have Devontae Adams and like Adam Thielen against the Falcons or something? Because this is a nice problem to have.
Yeah, I would say Galladay if you can only pick one. Against Jacksonville, Galladay's clearly the guy. Godwin's had just a variety of injuries. I do like the matchup with the Packers, and I don't think he's in any danger of not getting the targets or anything. But the touchdown's going to go to Mike Evans. I don't know. So I think they're both very good options. If you can play both, put them both in there. If not, I'd give a slide edge to Galladay.
I think same.
Go. Yeah.
I was just going to say same because Godwin, don't know what he's going to do with even Cameron Brate's been getting passes. Gronk's been getting more involved. They're spreading the ball around more. Evans is the red zone target. Galladay, at least in 2 straight games, he's had 8 targets, 14 points, and those were up against really tough defenses, Arizona and New Orleans. So, yeah, Galladay.
His targets have been a little all over the place, though, Galladay.
He's played in 2 games.
Huh?
He's played in 2 games, though.
And how many did he get in both games?
I think 8 and 7 or something like that. First 2 games back. Yeah, 7 and 8. Yeah.
Yeah, to me, 7 and 8 is not that high. I guess that's okay.
I mean, granted, you got to keep in mind he's playing Arizona, who's had like a quietly nice secondary, and then Marshawn Lattimore's on him in New Orleans. So he definitely hasn't had the easiest of matchups since.
I just know that people are a little worried about him because his targets are down. I mean, remember, you guys were getting on me for my OBJ love because he was getting
5 targets a game.
Yeah, like if a guy's getting 8 targets for me, I'm good with that. Like even 7 is more on like the borderline.
Right.
But if they're getting 8 targets, I'm good with them getting 8 targets. It's not elite receiver level of DeAndre Hopkins or Amari Cooper getting double-digit targets, or Adam Thielen. Ideally, double-digit targets is what you want to shoot for. But if a guy's getting 8 targets, I'm not, unless it is one of those guys like Devontae or something like that. I'm good with 8 targets. I'm
hoping. I mean, I'm a huge Galladay fan. I think his targets are going to go up. I just know I've heard a lot of people talk about they're worried about what's going on over there that his targets are so low.
I mean, I don't think they were that. He wasn't even like doing it as a target monster last year, really. I mean, last year, last year, either the past 2 years, he's had 119, 116. So, I mean, it kind of, if you project out over 2 games, if he was going to play a 16 game season, which he won't, but if you multiply 2 by 8, then basically that would come out to like 120. So it would basically come out to like exactly where he's been before. I'm just, I'm good. I don't think he's going to be a target monster on the level.
He does like a lot with what he gets.
Yeah.
Liam Wilson needs 1 flex play. Chase Edmonds, John Brown, or Laviska Shenault. Not gonna lie, this is an easy Laviska Shenault for me. What do you guys think?
Let me look and see. I think so too. I don't know if we have any more updates on. I guess Chark is still questionable, but.
I don't know. Yeah, go ahead. What do you think? Is Chark going to play?
I was having to look at John Brown and Chark. So basically, John
Brown's a full go, right?
Yeah, it looks like he's a full go. If Chark is in there, then that makes it a little bit harder for me between Brown or Shenault. Chenault's targets keep going up, 4 each of the first 2 weeks, 6 each of the 2 weeks after that, and then 8 this past week against Houston. But I think it's going to be sort of like a Justin Jefferson thing where there are going to be weeks where it's going to dip back down. I think the Bills are going to have to score points against the Chiefs. I would probably give a slight edge to Brown, especially not knowing if Chark is going to play. If Chark doesn't play, then that might flip it to Shenault.
I got Chase Edmonds. Smash it.
Interesting.
The running backs are going to get so much play, and I think they're going to smash smash Dallas. It's just not going to.
Is that a Hopkins game though? Because Dallas' back line is the worst in the league.
What's that?
Is this a Hopkins game though? Because Dallas's back line is the worst in the league. So could this?
Doesn't matter. I mean, they get up. They're going to get up big, and they're just going to go to the running backs.
But how are they going to get up big when they're going against Andy Dalton?
Good point. I think Chase Edmonds game. I think I'm pretty close to dropping Drake in the one league I have. Chase Edmonds he's just, when you watch the games, it looks like he's the running back.
Yeah.
The weird thing is that Chase Edmonds isn't getting like any carries. Like he's getting Royce Freeman type carries where he's getting 3 or 4 carries a game. But the thing is, he catches 5 passes out of the backfield, and in 2 straight weeks, he's caught a receiving touchdown and then a rushing touchdown. So he's really, really touchdown dependent, but he's producing decently well. I don't know.
Well,
I might go Shenault if Chark's out. I go Shenault just because Jacksonville I think is going to be throwing it against Detroit. If he's in, then John Brown just because he is the deep threat. of the Bills. What did the Chiefs get beat by? The deep threat in Henry Ruggs last week. So I would go John Brown if Chark is going to play. And Liam says, I believe this is also full PPR as well. Does that change anything for you guys or stays about the same?
Not for me.
Chase is all about the catches.
That's true. Thomas H wasn't able to make it. He's got to work today. Sorry to miss the show. Sorry to miss you here, Thomas H.
Yeah,
been working Saturdays. Wow.
Would have been good to have the Falcon fan input there.
Yeah. The only way is rugby. How would you rank McKinnon, Harris, and Swift? Yes, times are tough right now. I believe that. I know, Judah, you're a big Damian Harris fan.
Yeah, I like Harris, Swift, McKinnon.
Jared?
Let me check on. I think Adrian Peterson. No, let's see. Looks like AP's
cleared to play.
AP's good. Yeah. Yeah, I think I like him in that order too. I would like Harris better if Cam wasn't back this week, because then you're running more risk of Cam vulturing touchdowns. But you just can't really. You don't know the volume on Swift, and McKinnon didn't do much of anything last week. I would go those three in that order, but I think it's really tough to project.
I would go Harris and then flip a coin between McKinnon and Swift. Honestly, Swift, like Chase Edmonds, is not getting carries, but he's getting 4 catches out of the backfield. And guess who else is doing that? Jerick McKinnon. His entire point production over the first 3 weeks was literally just because he was vulturing touchdowns from people. So I might go McKinnon over Swift because he's actually been getting points even when Mostert was playing. Like, he had touchdowns in the first 3 weeks when Raheem was still active, and then he had one good week when Raheem was out, and then he kind of crashed back down to earth when he had 1 carry last week. So Damian Harris is the easy number 1, but then after that, I really don't. Flip a coin, man. Flip a coin and hope the one of them scores a touchdown.
You never know. It might be a McKinnon week.
That's what I'm saying is, like, I can easily see a scenario where McKinnon is the number 1 out of this group. Yeah. He just, the problem is that I think he has the lowest floor.
Very true.
But yeah, and against the Rams and Aaron Donald and stuff, they could plug that up and force the 49ers to throw. But when a guy puts up like 1.5 points last week, then it's tough then to start him.
Yeah.
MathQuest, this is a follow-up question regarding his starting quarterback with Minshew, Ryan Fitzpatrick. He dropped Minshew for your guy, Judah, Andy Dalton. Should he start him over Matt Ryan and Fitzpatrick? Allied Rivals is freaking out saying no, start Minshew. Keep in mind, he's also starting Minshew in our listener league, so there may be a little bit of bias there. So what do you think, Dalton, Ryan, or Fitzpatrick?
I'm sticking with Fitz. Arizona's secondary's been, pretty solid against the pass.
Yeah.
I've got to see what Dalton does in a full game. If it was a good matchup, I'd be, more inclined to roll the dice on him. But I'll say Fitz. I'll stick with him.
Judah?
I'll go Dalton. Why not? Let's go Dalton. I love Fitz. I love Fitz. It's just that every week, it's like, well, this could be the week he implodes.
Yeah,
he will implode. I mean, he will
like a ticking time bomb.
There's no doubt in my mind he will implode, but it might not be this week. So.
That's not very comforting.
Whereas Dalton, I think he's got a solid floor. I don't think he's gonna blow up. And that's the thing about Matt Ryan, could blow up. He's got the highest ceiling, I think. Wouldn't you say? He could get a good, nice little 30 burger in there for you.
That is true, especially with Ridley and Julio on a full week of rest.
Yeah. There's a couple bombs. Boom.
Yeah,
but,
I don't know.
But I'm going to go with Dalton because I'm curious. And I just don't think he's got the highest floor, I think.
I will go Fitzpatrick. I'm not that much of a risk taker, so I'm not really going Dalton yet. He's one of those
Dalton's
guys.
the least risk. He's the least risky.
Well, here's my thing. I'm a little bit worried this could be a Zeke game. Zeke's kind of been due to explode, and he was getting more carries later in the game when Dalton came in. Dalton had a great final drive, but once Dak went out, it was Zeke for most of the time. They started going instead of 6-pass-2 rush to 3-pass-4 rush on their later drives. So I think this could be a big Zeke game. I'd go Fitzpatrick, and Ryan, I am starting to become more happier and happier that I haven't gotten him in more leagues. So yeah, I would go Ryan Fitzpatrick here. Jacob Piccolo, do I start Jamison Crowder or Justin Jefferson in a standard league? Now, I'm not sure if standard, because if this is NFL standard, their new standard is PPR nowadays. So I don't know if this should
No, standard is half point. But when people say standard, that just means no.
I think
no.
I still think of standard as being no points per reception. So I'm not sure what he means. Either way, it doesn't really matter for me. I'm still going Crowder. Justin Jefferson could, he gets the golden matchup, but I think you just got to go volume, especially when you're talking about a veteran versus a rookie.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a coin flip, but it's true. Jefferson, there are just games when Kirk does not, what's his name?
Kirk Cousins.
Kirk Cousins, yeah. When Kirk Cousins just doesn't throw the ball. Now, it's usually when Dalvin Cook's in there, but Madison's not that much of a, different player. I mean, he's not as good as Dalvin Cook. But I could see them just handing off to Dalvin Cook the whole game.
Sam, I'll go Crowder here. Sam, Joshi, Robert Tonyan, Jimmy Graham, or Eric Ebron. A little bit of a yikes, but I think I go Robert Tonyan here. What do you guys think?
Yeah, if Rodgers keeps throwing to Tonyan the way he is, I mean, at least especially in the red zone, then I think Tonyan could be like a borderline top 5 option. I mean, not probably not within the top 5, but maybe the 6th best tight end or something. I think Tonyan could kind of be a version of this year's Tyler Higbee. Not in the same way, because Higbee was getting a ton of volume and not as many touchdowns. So, kind of the reverse in some ways. But I like Tonyan. If you don't have Kelsey, if you don't have Kittle or Andrews or Jonnu, once you get past those guys, I don't think there's a lot of guys that are Waller. Sorry. So those are the 5 guys that I feel, best about: Kelsey, Kittle, Andrews, Waller, Jonnu. And once you get past them, then there's, some Noah Fant, if he's healthy. He's not this week. He's out.
Yeah.
He and Melvin Gordon are both ruled out for this week. So I like Tonyan. After you get past them, I like Tonyan.
Judah, you're the Packers fan here.
I am, and so I've seen this before, where you see a tight end start blowing up. Thinking Rodgers is that other Rodgers, Richard Rodgers, catching long ones and open ones, and then all of a sudden just fading off into oblivion because, Adams is back this week, so but he may be a nice little, dump off and open guy when everybody's on Adams. I have been looking. I've seen Jimmy Graham on the waiver wire in a couple of leagues, and I'm looking at him like, he talk about a red zone threat. He's been catching some touchdowns, and I don't know. It's kind of a toss up. I as a Packers fan, I'm a little biased because I just, I get excited about tight ends because I would love, it's like this, counterintuitive bias where I would love them to have their tight end, right? And every time somebody starts getting on fire, I'm like, yes, we've got him. But fantasy wise, he may be sweet. He may be sweet. As when with all tight ends, though, it's like, you might get 0 points. So I'll go with you on Tanyan. Let's just go. Let's roll with Tanyan.
I'll make it around to Tanyan.
Let's keep the good juju. Yes. Go, Pat, go.
Well, I don't agree with that last part, but Jimmy Graham catches a touchdown every other week, and Eric Ebron has caught a touchdown once. So, Tanyan. Rude Alva in all caps. Serious question. Mike Thomas for CMC. He's the one who has Mike Thomas. He also has Devontae Adams and Kenny Galladay and T. Higgins and Christian Kirk. What do you guys think about that?
So you saw that CMC is going to be out to at least week 8.
I knew that was going to happen, though.
Yeah.
And they said it could be longer, which could be really bad because then you won't get him for week 9 because that's their bye week. So if he's out for week 8, you're missing him for 3 more weeks.
And that seems like likely to me, because I mean, typically it's like Devontae when Devontae was out. Wait, no. So is week 9?
I think that's Carolina's bye week.
So
everybody's bye weeks are getting mixed up. I don't know.
Yeah, it like that's not what it says on Yahoo, but
nope. Maybe that got changed.
Yeah, I don't know because they keep changing them, and some places don't update them. Anyway, I think it depends on your, what your running back situation looks like, what your record looks like. If you're 4-1, then maybe you can, take the chance on, picking up CMC and riding it out for a little while. Yeah. If you're 2-3 or something, then you probably need to win now. So I think it depends on your running back situation and what your record looks like in the standings.
Judah?
Yeah, I'm going with Thomas. CMC, I mean, if you want to win this season, you're not going to depend on CMC. Or if you were depending on CMC to get you to the playoffs, like that's right. That's just not going to happen. Mike Thomas may get you to the playoffs. So I mean, I would like to have CMC in the second half or the second third of the season, but I think Mike Thomas can get you the same kind of production in a time where like wide receivers having a great wide receiver right now. I feel like I could cobble something together for running back. But wide receivers, that's a scary cobble,
Yeah, and I do believe. So I'm sorry. Yeah, I do believe the draft got moved. I'm pretty sure. I think, or not draft. The Carolina's bye week got moved. I do believe it got moved to week 13. So, Michael Thomas. See, here's the thing. I'm kind of I would like to have a trio of Michael Thomas, Devontae Adams, and Kenny Galladay. I would like to freak out my opponents by saying I can score 20 points with any of these guys on any given week, and I'm starting all of them. I think you're right. It does depend on who your running backs are. If you've got Jacobs and I don't know. Oh, he says his running backs suck right now.
Well, I don't know if you're being offered that, but if your running backs suck right now already, then again, Christian McCaffrey can't really help you for at least a week or two, a couple of weeks.
And so he's 2-3 right now. And you guys talking about win that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we're already in week 6, but you're still gambling on the fact that he's going to come back in week 8 because it's too late to trade for anyone for this week. And so you're gambling on him coming back in week 8. If he doesn't come back in week 8, then there's at least 2 more weeks where you don't have him. So, maybe you could see if there's someone else, if there's another elite running back that someone would be willing to trade, maybe that makes more sense considering your record,
Yeah. Yikes. He says his running backs are Gordon, Kelly, McKinnon, and Swift, which means this week you're starting McKinnon and Swift. Yikes.
Yeah, that's tough. Yeah. And it's probably tough. Like this has been the worst year for me for trades. Just people generally will not accept anything that isn't them giving you a couple of scrubs for your stars. So I've made very few trades. MathQuest hooked me up in our listeners league with Latavius Murray, who I needed to get really in case Kamara goes down. Traded him Mecole Hardman, so that was a fair trade for both of us.
Yeah, I like that trade.
Man, just most of my public leagues and stuff, it's just no one will. They unless you're giving them 2 stars for 2 scrubs, they're not interested. So. All right.
Yeah, that's tough. I think you're in a win now situation. You probably need to keep him. Yeah.
Let's move.
Am I frozen or am I coming in late?
You're delayed a little bit, but your audio's fine.
All right, I'll hop out. Okay, I'll hop out for 1 second to see if I can.
Okay, well, who do we have?
So next we're at Drew asks thoughts on Singletary after a down week and Moss coming back. Even without Moss last week, Singletary didn't do a whole lot. I think we've probably seen the peak of Singletary unless Moss gets hurt again or something. And Singletary has a kind of a tough end to his season. So I'm going to try to trade. I don't really have him. I've got him in a $50 and a $20 league. That's it. But I'm going to, if I can try to trade those shares, I don't really like Singletary's rest of season outlook.
Yeah, he's hard to figure out. I'm probably going to fire him up. I think he had a down week last week, but I like him skill wise. It's like the thing is the Bills had a difficult week last week. The Bills did not look good. They looked terrible. Josh Allen looked terrible, and I know he's not. So I don't know what's going on. But I think they should be all systems go this week. They better be. Because they got to face the hottest offense in the world. I think he's fine. I mean, for the price you got him at, he's put him in the flex depending on matchup. You got him got him pretty cheap. So.
Yeah, I'm not high on Singletary for the rest of the year. I think I said this a couple weeks ago that this is Josh Allen's team, and he's going to be throwing the ball probably 35 times a game. And since he has a rushing floor, he's going to be taking away stuff from Singletary and Moss as well. So if you're Singletary, this is like almost a better Mark Ingram situation to me, a rich man's Mark Ingram, where, look, does he have talent? Sure. Does he have a quarterback and another running back taking stuff out of his production? Also, yes. So, and like you said,
what running back doesn't though? What running back doesn't?
Basically, all the main running backs, like all the best running backs that are out there, like
right?
Zeke Elliott,
the best
I
ones.
get that. But like I said, I'm not starting Mark Ingram anywhere. Like I'm trying to cobble together something like even Melvin Gordon when he was playing. Like I was trying to fix something there. And for me, I've drafted a lot of running back. I have a lot of stock in a lot of running backs. But even like he's getting production like Adrian Peterson, where they get a touchdown, they're getting the exact same kind of points. So, I mean, I like Singletary. And like you were saying, Drew, to play the matchup, he doesn't have any good matchup second half of the year, like you were saying, Jared. So I'm not a huge proponent of him. I'm not a big fan. I love Singletary as a player, but I don't like his situation and I don't like his schedule.
Who do you like him better than?
Mark Ingram.
Henderson or Singletary?
Henderson.
Singletary. Oh, okay.
Henderson for me. I mean, he may lose touches to Cam Akers, but right now Henderson's kind of the guy. He doesn't have to worry about his quarterback vulturing touchdowns.
True.
3 of the last 4 weeks, Henderson's been at 19, 18.5, and 20 points. Mm-hmm. So Henderson for me.
Yeah, I go Singletary just because at least I know he's the number one, and I know on any given day Malcolm Brown can get more carries, and that scares the heck out of me.
I mean, that's like every single league.
I'm sorry. I've invested a lot of stock in running back this year, just in general, over a lot of my teams. So a lot of my teams, I don't have this problem as much. A lot of my problems are with wide receiver.
Well, yeah, me too. But that's because I have a ton of Henderson, a ton of Singletary, and Harris. We'll see how Damian Harris does.
L. Kraus, Fitzpatrick or Minshew this week. I think we are pretty much around to Fitzpatrick there.
Yeah.
All right. L. Kraus again. Gesicki or Ertz for this week? Thanks for the help, guys. What do you think?
Rough both ways. Gesicki, you don't know if he's going to get one catch for 15 yards or 6 or 7 for 100 yards. Ertz, I don't know what's wrong with him. I know Philadelphia's offense as a whole is bad, but the last 2 weeks, Zach Ertz has 9 receiving yards and 6 receiving yards. And week 1, he had 18 receiving yards. So against Baltimore, I'm gonna roll the dice on Gesicki.
Yeah, Gesicki has the talent. He has been disappointing, week to week. It's hard to tell what's gonna happen, but go out in the waiver wire, see if you can find anything better. I'd roll with Gesicki.
Same. I mean, at least I know Fitzpatrick likes throwing to him every now and then. I don't know if Carson Wentz is going to have time to throw the ball against that Baltimore front seven. So, yeah, easy Gesicki for me. Sarah Riley.
I do want to say, there's in a couple leagues, Goddard is on the waiver wire. He's a sweet little IR stash if you have the room.
Sarah Riley, half-point PPR needs to Raheem Mostert, Phillip Lindsay, Antonio Gibson, or David Johnson.
For me, Mostert, Gibson, Johnson, Lindsay, in that order.
She needs 2.
I know, but I'm saying Mostert and Gibson. That would just be
Lindsay's
my order.
Going to have the field to himself.
They'll mix in Royce Freeman, and it's the Patriots. It's the Patriots. They shut down the run. I don't really love that as much. He's bottom of the barrel for me.
I'll go. I don't know. These are like all the same player. I actually think this is going to be you're right. I hadn't thought about Freeman, but I think it could be a big Lindsay game. I have no idea. Mostert, he might take, it might be a big, I don't know. Who are the Texans playing?
Tennessee.
Jeez. We'll go Gibson, Lindsay. I think they have the highest upside, lowest downside.
I'll go Mostert, David Johnson, and go completely different. I like Johnson's safe floor. That's what I'll say. At least I know he's going to get me 10 points. Lindsay and Gibson, I don't know if they can manage that.
Well, Gibson can. He's got. What has he had below 10 points?
No, he's been pretty good, but also Washington's offense is dysfunctional, and I don't even know who's going to be quarterback this week for them. So
I think it's Kyle Allen
again. Okay. Yep. Let's see. Where are we? Static Pro. Liam Wilson says, "Thanks, guys. You're welcome." Static Pros. Kenny Galladay or Odell? Judah, I'm pretty sure this is an easy answer for you, right?
Kenny Galladay.
Oh, really? My gosh. Going against your guy.
Odell has been out most of the week with like a sickness. And I don't know. Kenny Galladay is my guy too.
Yeah.
I love Kenny Galladay. I think he's the next Megatron. But who? And there's I know this for sure because I have this exact question in my league, and I picked Galladay. But there's something about Odell's matchup too that I didn't like.
Pittsburgh.
Oh yeah, that would be it.
Jared, what do you think?
Yeah, I'll go Galladay. It's just, I mean, Odell week to week, he's going to give you 8 points, but it looks like you're going to get a lot of 8-point weeks, and then you're going to get some blow up weeks. Yeah. I think Galladay's safer. I go Galladay.
I think this could be a big point game for the Lions overall. I'm starting Peterson in one league by necessity, but I think this could be Point City against Jacksonville's defense. That's where Point City's really been for a lot of different teams. And Odell, I realize now that whenever Yahoo predicts wide receivers to get 7.26, I realize, that's the Odell score because he throws for 18 yards every now and then. So yeah, Pittsburgh versus Cleveland, typically a low-scoring affair. I would go Galladay. Let's see. Where are we? Drew Vano, Static Pros. Sorry, yeah, you say this. They said Odell's healthy.
Yeah, I actually don't. I don't think Odell's a bad option this week. Pittsburgh's actually not been that great against the pass. I think he could actually have a good week. I'm just going based on, again, the floor and just the fact that, Detroit against Jacksonville, I think it's just much more likely that Galladay, balls out and gets a touchdown. So I don't dislike Odell this week necessarily.
Well, what were you going to say, AJ?
I don't really have anything except Cleveland, Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh-Baltimore. Those are typically hard-nosed, low-scoring games. Maybe that's changing nowadays since, Baltimore's moved on from Flacco to Lamar and Cleveland's moved on from everybody to Baker Mayfield. So maybe they are throwing the ball more.
Also, Mayfield's hurt too. So
is he? I actually didn't see that.
He's not. He doesn't have a tag, but he came out of the game last week.
Oh no, he is listed as questionable.
Yeah, so that was the other thing. I don't know who's going to be throwing. He says he wants to play, but that's even worse. He's going to be playing sort of hobbled. I think it's going to be a big run game. I don't know.
Drew Van.
Okay, let's move on.
You think Josh Allen will rebound this week against KC?
Yeah. I think he's going to have to throw a lot. So I think he's going to get you points. Is he going to have an efficient game? I don't know. I think it's going to be hard for him not to come out of this game with 20 points, at least.
Yeah.
So I don't know that he's going to have a good game by NFL help your team win standards, but I think he's going to have at least a good game, above average game against Kansas City, just because he's going to have to. Just because they're going to have the ball and they're going to be throwing constantly.
Yeah, I think he could have a pretty. Now the difficulty is Chiefs. Their rush is really good. And they blitz a lot. So is Josh Allen's is his line going to be able to protect him? Last week it didn't seem like it did very well. So is his offensive line going to bounce back? That's my question. Because he didn't have a lot of time to throw last week.
Yeah, it's really weird because in real life, Allen had a down game, but in fantasy, he still got over 20 points. He still won me. I think so, because I think he won me one game by a point.
I think he got close. I think he had 19 points.
Allen? Yeah, I think he was at 18 points something, nearly 19.
Yeah.
So, even by fantasy standards,
it's not too bad.
Not bad. Yeah, I don't know if this is 6 point for me, but he got me 22 in one league. So
that must be 6 point per.
Yeah.
Yeah, with Dak gone now, I think if you're looking at who are the safest quarterbacks, who are going to be almost guaranteed to get you 20 or so points at least each week. I think it's, Mahomes, Kyler, Allen, maybe in that order. I don't know, but I think he's one of the 3 or 4 safest options to roll out every week.
Mm-hmm. The Walido. Should I trade? Thanks for tuning into the show. I like the Toronto Raptors profile picture. Should I trade Amari Cooper for DK Metcalf? That's interesting.
Yes. I've got a thing for that.
Uh-oh.
Do it! Come on! Do it now!
Are you kidding me? DK Metcalf is looking to be like top 5 rest of the year. I don't know about you guys, but he looks really good.
Yeah, I mean, if not for the Dak injury, I would have said no. The volume's just too good. Because I mean, I love decaf. I've got decaf. that's what I'm gonna start calling him. That's gonna be his. That was unintentional, but yeah, I'm gonna. But he's not decaf though. He's the strong stuff. So that doesn't really make sense. I don't know. Whatever. Words don't matter anymore. So I like DK. Gosh, how can you not like what he's done so far? I guess it worries me a little that the first 4 out of 5 games, he's only had 4 catches. So he's kind of living off those bomb catches. But I think if anybody's going to be consistent with bomb catches, it's going to probably be that Seattle offense. So prior to the Dak injury, I would have said no. DK is probably going to be due for some cool off games. But now, not expecting Amari's targets to stay where they are. I would make that trade. I don't think it's as good as it, looks in some ways, because I think DK will have some games where he cools off, and maybe Amari's target drop won't be as severe as as it could be. But I would still do it.
Yeah, I mean, even though Metcalf has some tougher matchups down the stretch too, but I mean, here's the thing that I think really clinches this trade to try to get Metcalf in this case. Lockett is starting to fade into irrelevancy in terms of targets from Russell Wilson. He's getting less and less. DK Metcalf had 11 targets last week. Granted, a lot of that came on the final 2 drives when Seattle was trying to win the game, but that just shows who's he going to win the game. He goes to Metcalf. He's hitting the big dude downfield, and I like that because Russell's trusting him more. Now, am I still a little bit frustrated that he fumbled on the 1 a couple weeks ago? Sure, but we're past that at this point. I like Metcalf a lot for the rest of the season, especially if Russell's just going to keep throwing it to him.
Some of that is game plan, though. I mean, some of the reason they went to Metcalf over what's his name? You just mentioned his name. Lockett. Is because Lockett was hot and the defense has shifted his way, and so it left DK open. The defenses may shift the other way and leave, because both of them have that long distance ability.
Yeah, but even since Lockett had his 3 touchdown game, he's had 9 targets combined in the last 2 weeks. He's had 4 and 5, and that's not something you really want to see. Metcalf's targets are gradually going up and Lockett's are gradually going down. That worries me.
But it could easily flip.
That is true.
There will be games where it flips, but I think Metcalf, I mean, the thing is, does Lockett do anything in particular that is radically better than Metcalf? Because at least
he's faster.
Okay. I don't know off the top of my head. I'm curious now to see how I would assume so. But I'm curious to see what the split is, because I mean, the thing with DK is he's just such a physical freak. Yeah. So, does Lockett Metcalf ran a 4.33. Metcalf ran a 4.33 at the combine. 40.
Yeah. And Lockett ran a 4.4.
Well, but Lockett, but I'm talking about Look,
I don't know why
when it comes,
I don't even know why we have one of those little spots for that, because I would get so much more enjoyment just singing that myself. I volunteer to do that.
Here's the thing, though. When I say he's faster, I'm not saying like raw speed he's faster. He runs routes, whereas DK Metcalf has like 2 routes he runs. And so getting behind the offense, that is Lockett.
Did anything you said just then make sense? I'm saying he runs routes, and so that's how the speed factors in.
Well, when I said speed, I mean getting behind the defenses. He gets separation way better than DK Metcalf. I thought it was good of his speed, but I guess not. I think I mean, further reflection, he runs way more routes.
Yeah, and that's what I'm talking about. Like maybe he runs, I think you're right. I think he does have a better route tree. I think I read some stuff, in the offseason about them sort of limiting what DK Metcalf does and really just kind of play into his strengths. So that's, I think that's probably true. And that's where Lockett can, still have some blow up games, because just physically it's no comparison. Size, speed, strength, all those things. So
I think he could easily be like the top wide receiver, next year and beyond. I mean, think about it. If he starts running routes like Lockett will be insignificant.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is like, that's something you can get better at. You can get better at routes. Like Tyler Lockett can't grow 3 inches and, drop 1/10 of a second off his 40 time and, develop the muscle mass that looks like he's a, power lifter or something. So that's the thing, is like DK Metcalf has room for improvement on his technique, but Tyler Lockett doesn't have that much room for his improvement physically.
Right. Well, guys, I've got to go pretty soon. My internet keeps being weird.
I think that's everything, unless you guys have anything else to finish us off here.
Sounds good. Well, I appreciate all the people that tuned in.
Yeah,
we had like a lot of viewers at one point.
Yeah, it keeps going up. Yeah, I noticed the subscribers. We were like at probably maybe 50 to 55, maybe 60, and then in the off season, and then we've jumped up a good bit. So
yeah.
Thank you, everybody. Keep subscribing. Tell your friends to subscribe, and just tell them to listen to my advice, and then they'll lose. And if they listen to the other 2 guys' advice, you can listen to the other 2 guys' advice. Tell your friends to listen to mine.
We actually have to drop in really fast before we head out. Len Boy, should I start Debo at flex or Darren Schultz?
Dalton.
Yikes.
What?
Dalton Schultz.
Dalton Schultz.
Dalton Schultz. Thank you. Sorry. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's kind
of I would go, if those are your 2 best options. I don't love either one. I would go, I guess, Debo. He had 8 targets last week, but he hasn't. Yeah. His first 2 weeks back, he hasn't done anything with them. The thing that scares me about Schultz is just not knowing who Andy Dalton's going to be throwing to. Dalton did like his tight end, when he had Tyler Eifert healthy, which was never. True. Which was never in Cincinnati, but but on those rare occasions where he did have Eifert healthy, he would throw to him. So I think it's not, outside the realm of possibility that he continues to throw to Schultz, but just not knowing how it's going to be, hoping, crossing my fingers that Debo is going to be a little bit better in week 3. But honestly, like, I don't know what your other options are, but I don't particularly love either one this week.
But hey, I'm going to say Dalton Schultz for the Dalton to Dalton connection, baby. Yeah.
Oh, there you go. That didn't work out. That didn't work out well for the Braves last night, because Will Smith was pitching to Will Smith, and the Dodgers Will Smith rocked a 3-run home run off of him.
So it did work out, except not for you.
Yeah.
All right, guys, I got to roll.
All right,
Same.
sounds good. I think that's everything. You get any outro? Anything we should probably get a mini listener league episode in sometime, maybe.
Yeah, we will.
Yeah.
We will.
Yeah.
At some point.
Especially as we get closer to the playoffs.
Yeah. But yeah, thanks everybody for tuning in as usual.
Oh, and I will say one other thing. Oh, I'll throw in one last thing real quick. Is a guy that I picked up in our listeners league actually for free off the waiver wire, and he was a big star last week. Got overshadowed by Chase Claypool, but Travis Fulgham for the Eagles had 26.2 fantasy points last week, 13 targets, 10 receptions, 152 yards, and a touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
I've picked him up in a couple other leagues for this week too, because the rest of the Eagles receivers it looks like are still not going to be back. And so if you're looking for a plug-in guy for this week, that's a guy, speaking of, that's a guy that I would rather play over Debo or play over Dalton Schultz. The Ravens matchup is not ideal, but I like the volume and potential he's got there. So Travis Fulgham's a guy that you could probably use this week, and he's only 29% rostered because Claypool got all the because of Philly, because Claypool got all the attention last week, and because people know that he's more likely to be a short-term fix when some of those Eagles receivers come back in a week or two. But for a week or two, he could win games for you.
True. Very true.
Drew Vano says most underrated fantasy football advice. Thank you.
Thanks, man. Are you hosting this, Judah, or what?
Oh, I thought you had taken over. All right, guys.
Okay,
Thank everybody for showing up. We love you guys, and we will see you again next Tuesday.
Yeah.
Goodbye. Bye, guys. I got to run.
Same. Good luck.
I'm also in slow-mo.
Are we still going?
Oh, yeah. Did you not end it?